10, the opulence of the absolute, text number 8. So let's begin by offering a respectful obeisance to Srila Prabhupada. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane, Namaste Saraswatim Deve, Gauravani Pracharane, Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharane. Welcome, everyone. I hope you're all well. In the temple I'm in, Ljubljana, we pray in the morning for the devotees who are sick, but this morning we also prayed for the devotees who are healthy, so they don't get sick. There's so many devotees sick in Slovenia. So this is chapter 10, Opulence of the Absolute, text number 8. Ahang sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Purport. A learned scholar who has studied the Vedas perfectly and has information from authorities like Lord Chaitanya, and who knows how to apply these teachings and understand that Krishna is the origin of everything in both the material and spiritual worlds. Because he knows this perfectly, he becomes firmly fixed in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. He can never be deviated by any amount of nonsensical commentaries or by fools. All Vedic literature agrees that Krishna is the source of Brahma, Shiva, and all of the demigods. In the Atharva Veda, Gopal Tapani Upanishad 1.24, it is said, Yo Brahmanam Vidadati Purvam, Yo Vai Vedams Chagatpayati Sma Krishna. It was Krishna who in the beginning instructed Brahma in the Vedic knowledge, and who disseminated Vedic knowledge in the past. Then again, the Narayana Upanishad says, Ato Purusho Havai Narayano Kamyata Praja Sri Jayati. Then the Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayan desired to create living entities. The Upanishad continues. Narayana Brahma Jayate, Narayana Prajapati Prajayate, Narayana Indro Jayate, Narayana Asto Vasavo Jayante, Narayana Ekadasha Rudra Jayante, Narayana Dvada Shaditya. From Narayan, Brahma is born, and from Narayan, the patriarchs are also born. From Narayana, Indra is born. From Narayana, the 8 Vasus are born. From Narayana, the 11 Rudras are born. From Narayana, the 12 Adityas are born. This Narayana is an expansion of Krishna. It is said in the same Vedas, Brahmanya Devaki Putra, the son of Devaki, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality. Narayana Upanishad 4. Then it is said, Eko vai Narayana asin, na Brahma ne Shano Napo, Nagni Samo Neme, Dvava Prithvi na Nakshatrani na Suryaha. In the beginning of the creation, there was only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana. There was no Brahma, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no moon, no heaven and earth. no stars in the sky, no sun. Maha Upanishad 1.2. In the Maha Upanishad it is also said that Lord Shiva was born from the forehead of the Supreme Lord. Thus the Vedas say that is the Supreme Lord, Creator Brahma and Shiva, who is to be worshipped. In the Moksha Dharma section of the Mahabharata, Krishna also says, Prajapatim Charudram Chap Yaham Eva Srijami Vai To Hi Mam Na Vijay Nito Mama Maya Vimohito. The patriarchs, Shiva and others, are created by me, though they do not know that they are created by me, because they are deluded by my illusory energy. In the Varaha Purana it is also said, Narayana Pro Devas Tasmaj Jatas Chaturmukha Tasmad Rudra Bhavadeva Sacha Sarva Gitam Gataha. Narayana is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from him Brahma was born, and from whom Shiva was born. Lord Krishna is the source of all generations, and he is called the most efficient cause of everything. He says, because everything is born of me, I am the original source of all. Everything is under me, no one is above me. There is no supreme controller other than Krishna. When one understands Krishna in such a way, a bona fide spiritual master, with references from Vedic literature, engages all his energy in Krishna consciousness and becomes a truly learned man. In comparison to him, all others who do not know Krishna properly are but fools. Only a fool would consider Krishna to be an ordinary man. A Krishna conscious person should not be bewildered by fools. He should avoid all unauthorized commentaries and interpretations on Bhagavad Gita and proceed in Krishna consciousness with determination and firmness. So the verse again. I'm the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. In the Srimad Bhagavatam class here in Ljubljana, we're reading from the 10th canto, specifically Brahma stealing the cowherd boys and the calves. And according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna didn't have a few calves and a few cowherd boys. He had unlimited cowherd boys and even more calves. Sometimes it's described that Arbhuta or Laksha. Laksha would be 100,000, Arbhuta would be much more than that. That each cowherd boy had that number of calves. And we know that Brahma came because he had heard the demigods praising Krishna after he'd killed Aghasura, and he was wondering, what is all this about? Why are they spending so much time praising a little boy who's just a cowherd boy? What are the demigods? What have they lost their minds? So he decided to test Krishna by stealing his cows, his calves and his cowherd boys, and hiding them in a cave for 1 year. And he left for his planet after doing that. Brahma has mystic power, and he used it to put the cowherd boys asleep. But then he was a little doubtful. So in one moment of his time, he came back to see what had happened. And to his one moment, because Brahma lives for 311 trillion, 40 billion years. It's quite a long time for us. So his one moment, not even a second, is one of our years. So Brahma didn't stay away for very long. He came back practically immediately. But that was a whole year. And in the meantime, during that year, when Krishna had gone looking, well, before Brahma stole the cowherd boys and the calves, Krishna was taking lunch with his cowherd boyfriends. And the cows wandered, the calves, I could say, had wandered off somewhere. So Krishna noticed that, and he told his boyfriends, don't worry about it. I'll go and get the calves. You continue taking prasada. So Krishna went looking for the calves. And at that time, Brahma stole them all and stole all the cowherd boys and put them in a cave asleep. So Krishna, even though he's playing the part of a cowherd boy, he's still Krishna. So he could understand that what Brahma had done. And he expanded himself. First of all, the actual cowherd boys, he himself put asleep somewhere else. Because Brahma, he can't actually steal Krishna's friends. They're not part of Brahma's domain. So Krishna had created Maya cowherd boys and calves, which Brahma had stolen, thinking that these were the original ones. On the other hand, Krishna had his purpose, even if one is acting under the illusory energy, as Brahma was doing. Still, the illusory energy and the internal energy are always compatible. They're always acting in cooperation with each other. So Krishna had his own plan. So not only did he put the cowherd boys asleep and create Maya cowherd boys and calves that Brahma had stolen, but he himself expanded himself as each one of those cowherd boys and calves. Now, if we expanded ourselves 2 or 3 times, we get a little confused. Where am I? What am I doing here? What did my other expansion do? I hope I didn't say anything wrong. We get very bewildered. But Krishna can expand himself into unlimited calves and unlimited cowherd boys and be perfectly or exactly duplicate their bodily features, their personality, everything about them. And then Krishna, with himself, as all these cowherd boys and the calves, came back to Vrindavan. And for 1 year, they went to the forest together and played. Krishna was playing with his expansions. And of course, Brahma came back within 1 year, and he was quite surprised because he was wondering, I had put the calves and the cowherd boys asleep in a cave, and yet I see that Krishna is still playing with them. So maybe Krishna woke them up, and now he's playing with them. So Brahma saw in the cave that the cowherd boys that he thought he had stolen and the calves that he thought had stolen were all awake. I'm sorry, they were all asleep. And then he looked back and he saw Krishna playing with the cowherd boys and the calves. And he was thinking, maybe every time I look in the cave, Krishna puts them back in there. And every time I look at Krishna, he brings him out of the cave and starts playing with him. So Brahma was quite confused. How was this possible? And then he saw Krishna as a cowherd boy. Compared to Brahma, he was a little tiny boy. After all, the universe is just just a little bit bigger than Brahma. It's sometimes a few times bigger than Brahma. So Brahma is generally quite big. And Krishna, as a cowherd boy, is a cowherd boy. And Brahma looked at him and was quite wondering, could actually this be Narayan, my master? I mean, look at him. He dresses as a cowherd boy. And he has in his left hand fruit salad with yogurt. Could my Lord take prasad with his left hand? How is this possible? He doesn't even know that he should be eating with his right hand. So if he's God, he should know at least which hand to eat with. So then Krishna displayed to Lord Brahma each one of the cowherd boys and each one of the calves became an Narayan form with 4 hands, carrying a conch shell, disc, lotus, and club. Now we can't imagine what that would have been like to see so many unlimited forms of Narayan. So Brahma was completely bewildered. And not only that, but then all the forms of Narayan from the universes, anyhow, Brahma was completely bewildered. So Krishna had to cover him with Yogamaya to end his bewilderment. Otherwise, he probably would have had a heart attack. And it's very difficult to find a good Brahma for each universe. So Krishna didn't want our Brahma to disappear prematurely. So this is just a little bit of Krishna's opulence. Now, of course, here it mentions about how Brahma and Shiva are constantly glorifying Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Just as one of the offenses we have chanting the holy names is to consider the names of the demigods, like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, be equal to or independent of the holy name of Lord Vishnu. Now, for most people living outside of India, or perhaps even in India, when they hear that someone is better than Brahma or Shiva, it's not very impressive. Because people don't believe in Brahma or Shiva. They never heard of them. Now, if they said Krishna was better than the Beatles, they'd be probably more impressed. Or stronger than Hercules. Something that they could relate to. But for most people, Brahma and Shiva, they don't understand how powerful and great these personalities are. What to speak of Krishna. Now, the whole Bhagavad Gita is simply meant to give us information and convince us that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That the only real problem we have in this universe as conditioned souls is that we don't understand what to speak of except and act according to the fact that Krishna is God. The modes of material nature that cover us, and they cover us not because Krishna doesn't like us. He saw our face and he didn't like it, so he decided to put us into the material energy. That's not exactly how we came here. No, we voluntarily come here and we act in the material world principally to forget Krishna or to pretend that we are Krishna. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham Sarvasya Prava Mataks, I'm sorry. Bhoktaram Yagatapasam Sarvalokam Suridam Sarvabhutanam Yatmam Shanti Mrichati. That the sages, knowing me as the Supreme Lord, as the ultimate benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, as the Supreme Master of all the planets and demigods, and the ultimate well-wisher of all living entities, or as first of all, as the supreme controller of all the universes, as the enjoyer of all the sacrifices and austerities, as the supreme friend of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So principally, we're in the material world because either we usually have a combination. We feel that many things here in the material world belong to us. And the most important out of all of them is our body. Because we work with our mind and intelligence, and when our mind and intelligence tells us that we are this body, and we have a false ego, then we have to figure out what to do with the body. Now, it's given that everyone who has a material body, they already have many things they have to do, like eating, sleeping, and for most people, most living entities, mating and defending. So then the choice is what kind of eating we want to do, what kind of sleeping we want to do, what kind of relationships we want to have with others, and how we're going to protect whatever we think is ours. And of course, people gain things in the material world to enjoy on some platform, some kind of sense gratification. So eating, sleeping, mating, defending, these are the primary sense gratifications, and they take different forms in the material world for enjoyment. And those have a little tinge of goodness, because everyone has to have some goodness. Without goodness, we have no knowledge. Without knowledge, we can either try to control the material energy or even try to enjoy it. So there's always some goodness, and there's always some passion, and there's always some ignorance in different proportions. In any case, they all put us into the condition where we believe we're apart from Krishna and that we're taking the part of Krishna in the material world as the controller and as the enjoyer and as the benefactor of others. Therefore, unless we understand how great Krishna is, then it's very hard to not understand how small we are. If we think, well, Krishna may be great, but I'm also great. I may be 1/10,000th the size of tip of hair in size, but I'm a very special 1/10,000th the size of tip of hair in size. And by my potency, I'm controlling so many things. By my potency, I'm enjoying so many things. By my potency, I'm the benefactor of so many living entities. So this is all due, of course, to illusion. And because of that illusion, we don't appreciate either Krishna or his energies, other living entities, or even our real self. That's why people have so many psychological problems, because they identify or misidentify themselves with their gross and subtle body. And everyone's gross and subtle body, including Brahma's, is inadequate. we can't control very well, we can't enjoy very much, and we don't understand very much. So no matter how much I study, no matter how many exercises I do, no matter how many possessions I acquire, still I'm always feeling inadequate. It's not enough because primarily we're up against the material energy. And the material energy, under Krishna's control, is more powerful than we are. Therefore, it's not a very good match. As Krishna says, Daiviyesha Gunamayi Mamamaya Dharatya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Mayame Tam Tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes, is very difficult to overcome, but those who have taken shelter of me can easily cross beyond it. So ourselves against material nature, against birth, death, old age, and disease is rather an unfair match. It's like a 5,000 kilo gorilla going in against an ant. Most people wouldn't bet on the ant. Similarly, us against the material energy, it is impossible for us to make any progress because we can't even control one atom in our body. If we decided one day, as Hiranyakashipu did, that I'm going to control the universe, so first I have to control my body and not die, well, he was unsuccessful. He could not control even one atom in his body. He couldn't, because ultimately, the material nature is not being directed by us. It's under Krishna's complete control forever and ever. No matter how much whatever we do, it's not going to change that. That's the fact. Therefore, what can we do? If we want to become happy, we should understand what will actually give us happiness. Now, if our goal in life is to become happy by controlling material nature, like Hiranyakashipu wanted to do, well, he was a failure. He had received 100 benedictions from Lord Brahma, and yet he couldn't stop from dying, which was his objective. When Krishna came, we could say that Hiranyakashipu developed a very strong stomach problem and died. So what to speak of our little selves? Krishna doesn't have to come to kill anyone. The material nature imperceptibly is taking away our lives at every moment. The lives are staying in this body at least. Now, as far as enjoyment, how much can we enjoy? Especially in the human form of life, how much can you eat? When you're younger, sometimes we think I can eat, but then as much as I want, but then the next day we find that there was a limit even to how much we thought we can eat, how much we can actually digest. We can eat when you're younger and have strong digestion, but ultimately there's a limit. We can't eat like Kumbhakarna or even Bhima, Brikadar. He had a wolf. Brik means wolf, and Udara means the belly. So Bhima had a belly like that of a wolf. He could devour unlimited food, practically speaking, but still he had a limit. And how much can we sleep? There's only 12 hours, there's only 24 hours a day. We can't sleep more than that. And as far as sex life goes, everyone knows that there's limitations to that also. And no matter how strong and how many different types of martial arts we know, there's always someone stronger and more expert than we are. And ultimately, no matter how much we learn, we all die anyhow. There's no martial artist who's ever gone against Yamaraj and won so far. Therefore, one should appreciate how powerful Krishna is. How all these living entities with all these false egos who have collected vast amounts of money or armies or influence or knowledge, the material nature is not very impressed by them. And the material nature, Maya Dakshana Prakriti Suyate Sujaracharam, is working under an intelligent person. It's not working by accident. It's not working by chance. It's working under a system. And that system was created by Krishna. And he's moving the planets in their orbits. He's the one who gives everyone mystic power. So if we cut our finger, it heals. There's no scientists who have invented a process by which if you cut your finger, it heals. They have a science of doing it. No, the body heals itself. Yet the scientists may take credit for it, but all they can do is either make things worse, which they usually do. They give you some medicine to heal something, and it creates another problem. My aunt, she developed a bladder infection one time, and they went to the hospital. Now, she would have fasted for one day. She probably would have gotten cured. But that's very unscientific, at least she thought. So let's go to the hospital. And they gave her some medicine. And the medicine caused some problems. So to solve those problems, they gave her some other medicine. But those other medicines they gave her also caused problems. So by the time she left her body, she had 5 or 6 doctors visiting her day, prescribing her different medicines. So my uncle received the medical bill, and it was $1,200,000. And he was quite happy that his wife had died so scientifically. Of course, in America at that time, they had a Medicaid system, so he only had to pay $200,000. And everyone else, the other citizens in America, all chipped in so that my aunt was able to literally live on medicines for some time before they killed her. And the scientists, the doctors, people in society, they're very proud of their advancement, of how scientifically they've created a society where you can't breathe without it's being detected by someone. As Prabhupada said, by their so-called advancement, claiming that God has made an imperfect creation and they have to make better arrangements here, they've polluted the air, they polluted the earth, they polluted the food, they polluted the ether, and they're taking credit for scientific advancement, that they're doing wonders. But we can understand that Punya Gandha Pratibhyam Cha Tejas Chasmi Vibhavaso. That the original fragrance in the earth is Krishna. That everything original, without our interfering with it, is actually very nice. And as soon as we start interfering with God's creation, with Krishna's creation, then we simply make things worse. And then take credit for it, for how wonderful we're doing. But actually, the only wonderful thing we're doing is how much we can actually create problems for ourselves and others. That's amazing. But even that, we have to give Krishna credit, that Krishna gives everyone intelligence, remembrance, and forgetfulness according to what they desire. And at the same time, Krishna's illusory energy is so wonderful that even one makes one problem after, creates one problem after another, one will actually think one is making progress. Therefore it says, Andaya Tandera Upagiyamanas, Epiksha Tandra Urudami Vara. The blind are leading the other people who are blind. The blind leader is telling the other blind followers that he actually sees everything perfectly. But actually they're blind. And therefore all they're going to do is create problems for themselves and others. On the other hand, if we understand how wonderful Krishna is, how wonderful his creation is, how wonderful his purpose is of the creation, if we have proper understanding of things, then we can actually appreciate Krishna. That Krishna would like everyone to know him, everyone to relate to him, everyone to serve, to properly have a loving service attitude towards him, as he has a loving service attitude towards us, but he allows free will. And when one becomes proud, the first thing that one cannot do is tolerate any attempt at trying to make one humble. When one is proud due to the false ego and believing oneself to be special and wonderful and even greater than God, whether I am God, what to speak of greater than God, I am God at least. Then the next thing one can't do is tolerate anyone who doesn't surrender to the misconception that I am the supreme, I am the center of the attention, Ishvaraham aham bhogi, saraham balavan sukhi. So then one can't tolerate anyone who doesn't surrender to oneself, anyone who doesn't appreciate oneself, anyone who doesn't serve oneself, one's own interests. And therefore, one's appreciation of others goes down and down and down. One sees others as simply the objects of utilizing them to serve one's false ego. But on the other hand, when we understand how wonderful Krishna is, when we're actually in consciousness of Krishna, then we can understand that even the problems that come up in our existence, they're simply meant for one thing. They help us take shelter of Krishna more. That Krishna didn't arrange problems just to give us problems, but he arranged them to help us take shelter of him more. And he's the reservoir of all pleasure. He's the reservoir of love and affection. So therefore, the very thing that we're looking for, Krishna is trying to encourage us by giving us so many problems in the material world. As one great devotee said, that somehow or another, instead of becoming Krishna conscious, I was drinking poison. And if someone comes along and says, maybe it's not a good idea to drink poison, maybe you should try nectar for a while. People will agree to that, except for the fact that they have to surrender it to the person who is nectar, Krishna. As it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharma Prityaja Mame Kam Sharanam Braja Ahang Twang Sarapapevyo Mokshisyami Masuchaha. Give up all varieties of religion. So that is one instruction in the Bhagavad Gita that practically in modern society everyone is following. They're all giving up all varieties of religion. So at least partly they're following Krishna's instruction. The next part is a little more difficult for them. And just surrender to me. Well, that they like the first part. The second part is not so appealing. But Krishna promises, I'll protect you. Now, Krishna is not an ordinary person. And a reasonable person, after reading Bhagavad Gita, will at least test out and see whether or not Krishna will protect one. If he's as powerful as he proclaims in the Bhagavad Gita, then he's certainly a good friend to have. And we can test it and see whether or not Krishna will actually protect us, especially in the way that he'll free us from ignorance and establish us in blissful Krishna consciousness. So everyone has a chance to test that. So in order to do that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has asked us to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So to develop this faith in Krishna in this age means to develop faith in the holy name. And faith in the service of the holy name, which is ultimately to distribute the holy name to others. Now, if Krishna is all-powerful, and if he's actually who he says he is, if we chant Hare Krishna in the mood of first of all, humility, Prinada Pisanichena, and then tolerance of our material desires and our material circumstances, and appreciate how everyone and everything is ultimately Krishna's eternal servants and Krishna's energy, and not be disturbed by our mental concoctions. And just happily chant Hare Krishna, knowing that we're in Krishna's association when we chant Hare Krishna, then we may be able to, then Krishna will reveal himself to us, and we can experience how nice it is to associate with Krishna and his devotees. We can actually have direct appreciation, not just theoretical, that Krishna is God and that he's controlling the planets, but we can actually get to know Krishna more intimately by learning how to offenselessly chanting the holy name. And at the same time, understand that in modern society has become so complicated that they're creating so many ways of becoming happy and peaceful and so-called prosperous in modern society without Krishna. Practically, the whole society is interested in creating the perfect society like Ram Raj without Ram, like Ravana. He wanted the best society without God. But ultimately he was defeated, like everyone else is going to be defeated. Therefore, we have a very simple message that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's unlimitedly everything: beauty, strength, knowledge, fame, renunciation, and wealth. everything that we're looking for, Krishna has to the highest degree. And at the same time, he's our best friend. And by taking shelter of Krishna, by taking shelter of his instructions, then gradually Krishna will reveal himself to us, and then we'll understand what humility is. Humility is based on appreciation and love. The first step to become humble doesn't mean that we artificially degrade we think ourselves to be simply low and worthless, and we have a negative image of ourselves. No, what we think is ourselves is this body, but this body doesn't belong to us. It works under Krishna's direction, through his energy, either material or spiritual. Therefore, we can even appreciate Krishna's activities, either when we act in Maya, how he chastises us, or how we act in Krishna consciousness, how he elevates us. And at the same time, if we act in simply service to Krishna under the directions of his representatives, then gradually Krishna will reveal himself to us, and not only will we'll understand how great Krishna is, but we'll understand how loving Krishna is. And when we feel some love to Krishna, then our actual real humility will start to develop. As it says, if Indra praises himself, then no one will take him seriously. But even if an insignificant person is praised, then everyone takes him seriously. So when we begin to love Krishna and appreciate him, then the result is that we'll actually feel some humility. And the more we concentrate on Krishna with appreciation, the more we become convinced about his mission, the value of it, the meaning of it, the importance of it, to help others become Krishna conscious, then the more we can tolerate all kinds of inconvenient things that are happening in our lives. And the more we learn tolerance, the more we can concentrate our minds on Krishna, then the more we can see how wonderful Krishna's creation is, how wonderful Krishna's devotees are, how wonderful Krishna is, how wonderful Krishna's Maya is, how everything is perfectly arranged at every moment, that we don't have to worry about arrangements because it's all perfect already. Therefore, when we accept Krishna as the controller, then all our anxieties will go away as much as we do that. Then all the things we think are significant, that we've been taught to be significant, like wealth and followers and material sense gratification, or even liberation from the material entanglement, freedom from distress and anxiety, they'll all seem not very valuable anymore. Instead, progressively hearing about Krishna, thinking about Krishna, serving Krishna, that will be the focus of our attention as the humble servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. Because we'll actually experience, the more I surrender to Krishna, then the more Krishna reciprocates and reveals himself to me, then the more I can understand how wonderful everything, especially Krishna, is. And the more I experience Krishna consciousness, the more I can help others also understand what the real purpose of life is and how to achieve it. And therefore, I actually have a mission in life, something which is actually valuable and can help others in a meaningful way, rather than go around telling everyone that the sky is falling and everything, how bad it is, and how we're being all manipulated and controlled by some unknown force. But that doesn't really help very much. The only thing that would really help is when people become convinced, including ourselves, that we should focus our minds and give our love to Krishna. And then we'll actually realize how great and wonderful Krishna is, and how wonderful everything Krishna does, and how wonderful Krishna's energies are working. And then, as Prabhupada said, everything will be simply wonderful. As I mentioned, the first suite that we had in ISKCON was called a Simply Wonderful. It was a secret formula that was discovered on the back of a carnation powdered milk box. In any case, at that time, the devotees didn't know how to make club vitamins, or Prabhupada knew how to make them, so that was also special, but only Prabhupada knew how to make them. But Simply Wonderfuls, all the cooks in ISKCON knew how to make them. But the devotees were wondering whether the Simply Wonderfuls were bona fide sweets to offer to Krishna. So they offered Srila Prabhupada some Simply Wonderfuls and asked for his opinion. So Prabhupada ate the Simply Wonderfuls. Simply Wonderfuls were made out of powdered milk, powdered sugar, and butter. And sometimes, if they're really special, they added some raisins to it. So Prabhupada ate this Simply Wonderful, and the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, "What do you think of the Simply Wonderfuls?" And Prabhupada said, "Well, the devotees are simply wonderful. Krishna is simply wonderful. Devotional service is simply wonderful. And these Simply Wonderfuls is simply wonderful. So if you keep on eating Simply Wonderfuls, everything will become simply wonderful." So eat Simply Wonderfuls and chant Hare Krishna, and everything will be wonderful. Simply wonderful. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Partha Sarthi Prabhu.
Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you so much. I felt that the class was tailored, especially to where I experienced it through in the last week. Basically, there is one point that I don't have very clear, because at the end of the verse it says that that Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then at the beginning of the verse, it says that Krishna instructs to Brahma about the Vedic knowledge. But then my question will be, Krishna instructs Narayan in the two-arm forms or in the four-arm form as Narayan?
Well, there's really no difference, but Lord Brahma is instructed in the four-arm form, in his heart. Tene Brahma Hridayayat Kavye Muyanti. But Krishna in our heart is Narayan, the super soul, and in the heart of Brahma is Krishna himself. Well, Krishna reciprocates according to the mentality of the soul that he's dealing with. So therefore Krishna appears as four arms, Brahma, and reciprocates accordingly with him by giving him Vedic knowledge.
So with a discrepancy, the Hindu faith that Krishna is an incarnation of Narayan, but when I joined the Hare Krishna movement, it's completely the opposite. Of course, there is evidence according to the Vedas, the Upanishad, the Purana, that Narayan is.
It really doesn't matter, as Prabhupada writes, Chaitanya Charitamrita, it really doesn't matter very much. Although the Parivasha Sutra of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, is Ete Chamsa Kala Kumsam Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. That Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and all the incarnations come from him. But it's not a big deal, because Baladev, Narayan, Sankarshan, they're all Krishna. So if someone praises Narayan, Krishna doesn't become offended. They're all the same person. Lord Ramachandra, Krishna, Lord Krishna, they're all the same person. So that they appreciate if you glorify any one of them, because they're all Krishna. Just different souls have different desires, have relationships with different expansions of Krishna. So Krishna reciprocates with them. Anything else?
I have a question, Maharaj.
Okay.
You spoke about Lord Brahma, pastime with Krishna sitting in the cups. What is the significance that when Indra was floating and almost killing everybody, he was forgiven very nicely by Krishna, and Krishna told him, "I'm not angry about you at all." But when Brahma came, when Brahma apologized, Krishna never even answered him. He just nodded with his head. So is there a significance that he kind of didn't show him the full mercy?
I mean, I can't say exactly why Krishna didn't make a big thing out of Brahman. Not that Krishna didn't show him full mercy, even more than Indra, because after all, Krishna expanded himself into unlimited Vishnu forms and showed his mystic power to Brahma, and Brahma became completely humbled because of that. That was really quite mercy. But he was playing the role of a coward boy. Therefore, as a coward boy, he was thinking, who is this big man with 4 heads? What is he doing here? So he didn't, in his role as Krishna, as a coward boy, he didn't try to act differently than a little coward boy. So it would have spoiled the whole mood. Instead, he just, who is this man with 4 heads? What is he doing here? And then Brahma realized it's time to leave. So he just left. But Krishna already showed him so much mercy. It's the mood. Krishna didn't want to spoil the mood by getting into a conversation with a 4-headed man as a coward boy. It would have been a little Rasa Basa.
I thought maybe it's to, I don't know, like to make him Haridas Thakur or something. So
he did. Brahma became Haridas Thakur in his next lifetime. Anything else?
Yeah.
Thank you all. Hare Krishna. Srila
Thank you,
Prabhupada
Maharaj.
ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Bol.
Hari.
Holiness Prahladananda Swami Maharaj ki.
Jai.
Mars Kumari. Thank you, Agnihotra Prabhu.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Maharaj.
devotees.
Thank you, Agnihotra Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna to all of you. Jai Gauranga.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Nice to see you.
Hari Bol.
Jai Gauranga.
Hare Krishna. Jai Dandavat Pranam. Have a lovely week. Have a lovely week. Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Haribol. Haribol.